The documentary begins in Willowbrook Estates, a meticulously maintained middle-class HOA community. Marcus, a third-generation mechanic, moved into a modest house here after his divorce, seeking a peaceful new beginning. For 18 months, Marcus had poured his heart and soul into restoring a rusted 1967 Chevrolet Camaro. The project was more than a hobby. It was a personal resurrection with every detail, from its $3,200 purchase to the Hugger orange paint job, carefully documented for insurance purposes. The antagonist, Brenda Wilson, is the HOA president who drives a white BMW and has a reputation for weaponizing HOA rules. She had previously confronted Marcus about his work, citing a noise ordinance over his use of an impact wrench. The central conflict was ignited when Brenda, while hosting a pool party, falsely boasted to her friends that she had just bought an identical Camaro for $45,000. She claimed it was being shipped next week. When Marcus, needing brake fluid, backed his finished Camaro out of the garage, its rumble echoing through the neighborhood, Brenda's fabrication was exposed. She immediately called 911, telling the operator, "A black man is stealing my car." Officer Rodriguez, a 20-year veteran, and his younger partner Morgan arrived with lights blazing. Marcus, standing in his own driveway with his keys, was forced to defend himself against Brenda's false accusation. This incident marked the beginning of a relentless legal and personal struggle driven by Brenda's lies and racial prejudice. Standing in his own driveway, Marcus faced a theft accusation based solely on his neighbor's false report. To prove his ownership, he presented the officers with a 3-ring binder containing meticulous documentation. He showed them a timeline of the 18-month restoration, from a rust bucket to the finished Camaro. The binder also held his official DMV registration and his progressive insurance policy, all with matching VIN numbers. In stark contrast, Brenda could only offer generic stock photos downloaded from a dealer's website, which Officer Morgan noted lacked any proof of purchase or identifying information. Officer Rodriguez warned Brenda that filing a false police report was a misdemeanor offense, and the officers departed. This public defeat did not deter Brenda. Instead, she escalated her campaign, leveraging her HOA position. The very next day, Marcus received a violation notice for unauthorized commercial vehicle storage, with a $200 fine for his work van. Marcus, however, had done his research. He discovered the 2017 van was grandfathered in, as the HOA's restriction was not enacted until 2020. He drafted a formal rebuttal, which the HOA Management Office received with quiet apprehension. Unrelenting, Brenda issued more notices alleging oil stains and excessive automotive odors from his garage. In response, Marcus took a strategic step, installing 4 high-definition security cameras to capture Brenda's new obsession. Daily surveillance patrols of his property, armed with an iPhone and a collapsible yardstick. This digital evidence would become crucial later. Brenda's desperate attempts to assert her authority culminated in an illegal emergency HOA board meeting, called with a mere 3-hour notice. She tried to implement an immediate emergency ban on all automotive work and a $500 fine. However, Marcus, with his knowledge of the bylaws, exposed her actions. He informed the board that a 7-day notice and a quorum of 5 members were required for a legal vote. His defiance caused Brenda's composure to shatter, and she launched into a fit of rage, accusing him of coming into our neighborhood with your people and your activities. This racially charged comment confirmed her true motivations. Although the meeting failed, it became a catalyst for community action. A neighbor, Tom, approached Marcus, leading to the formation of a coalition of residents who had also been victims of Brenda's harassment. Marcus also received visits from a city code enforcement officer and his insurance agent, both of whom confirm his compliance and privately acknowledge Brenda's false complaints, solidifying his case. The harassment escalates further with 24 roofing nails scattered on his driveway and an anonymous threatening letter. He takes the letter to Detective Martinez, who confirms it could be prosecuted as a hate crime. The shared experiences and documentation from neighbors unify them, turning them from isolated victims into a collective force with legitimate grievances and professional expertise, preparing to fight back against their neighborhood tyrant. Driven by a growing suspicion, Marcus undertook a 3-hour investigation in the county courthouse basement. His search of Willowbrook's HOA financial records, which were deliberately kept disorganized, uncovered a shocking scheme. He found 3 separate companies, B&B Property Solutions, Brenda's Best Gardens, and Wilson & Associates, that were either owned by or connected to Brenda and her ex-husband. These companies had received a combined $35,500 in payments for phantom services. Through further investigation, he found the total amount of money Brenda had systematically embezzled was a staggering $78,000 over 2 years, all funneled into her personal legal defense fund. Marcus also uncovered Brenda's true business model. She would deliberately harass homeowners until they sold their homes below market value. Then, she would use her real estate license to earn a double commission by facilitating quick sales to her investor contacts. The Hendersons and Patels were examples of families who had been forced out of the neighborhood by her predatory actions. The most shocking discovery, however, was a foreclosure notice for Brenda's own home due to $23,000 in unpaid HOA dues to her own association. This revelation completely reframed her campaign against Marcus. It wasn't just a power play. It was a desperate attempt to force a quick sale of his property to fund her financial survival. With this new evidence, Marcus realized he wasn't just fighting a neighborhood bully. He was taking on a cornered criminal facing financial obliteration. He photocopied every document, preparing to share the explosive information with his community coalition. The criminal portion of Brenda's downfall accelerated dramatically as she became more desperate. Her first attempt at sabotage involved sneaking onto Marcus's property at 2:47 a.m. to plant fake oil spill evidence. But his cameras captured her, showing her face and her BMW's license plate clearly under the motion-activated floodlights. She then attempted to bribe Carlos Mendez, a contractor helping the coalition, with $2,000 in cash, a conversation Carlos secretly recorded on his phone. A false police report accusing Marcus of threatening her with a weapon is her 4th in 2 weeks. The final audit from Sarah, the forensic accountant, revealed Brenda's total theft was closer to $96,000 over 30 months, not just the initial $78,000. The final act of her desperation is a botched break-in at the HOA management office. Security footage showed her using a stolen master key to frantically shred documents, triggering a silent alarm. Officer Rodriguez found her elbow deep in evidence destruction and arrested her. While in county lockup, her accomplice Clara recorded a confession where Brenda tried to bribe her with $50,000 in cash to help her disappear. Her desperate attempts to destroy evidence and secure an accomplice sealed her fate, providing Mike, the lawyer, with a wealth of incriminating evidence for the prosecution. The final public confrontation took place at a community-wide meeting, where a crowd of 40 residents gathered to hear the details of Brenda's crimes. Tom presented the final audit, revealing a total of $112,000 in theft over 3 years, amounting to an average of $2,800 per household. A vote of no confidence was unanimous, with 33 households demanding her immediate removal and prosecution. The next day, a media circus descended upon Willowbrook Estates. Investigative reporter Janet Mills and Channel 7 covered the story, with Brenda's mugshot and the security footage of her shredding documents leading the evening news. Her real estate license was suspended, and her house was sold for $280,000, $70,000 below market value. The sentencing hearing was attended by over 40 residents. In her testimony, Brenda blamed her actions on mental health struggles and a desire to maintain standards. However, the community's victim impact statements, led by Marcus, exposed her abuse. Judge Patricia Hernandez delivered a scathing rebuke, noting Brenda's systematic abuse, racially motivated harassment, and false police reports. Brenda was sentenced to 4 years in state prison and ordered to pay $112,000 in full restitution. As she was led away in shackles, the courtroom erupted in applause. Outside, Marcus told reporters to document everything. Build community. Truth wins. His words became a rallying cry for homeowners facing similar battles. In the 6 months following Brenda's sentencing, Willowbrook Estates underwent a complete transformation. Tom was elected the new HOA president, with Sarah as treasurer and Mike handling legal affairs. They implemented radical reforms, including online financial reports and transparent meeting announcements, and property values increased by 15%. The restitution payments arrived over 12 months, with every household receiving their stolen funds plus interest, allowing neighbors to pay down credit cards and fund vacations. Brenda's prison reality was a stark contrast to her former life. She worked in the prison laundry for 60 cents an hour. A documentary film about their story, Garage Door Justice, won a regional film festival. Marcus donated his appearance fees to establish the Willowbrook Automotive Education Scholarship, funded by Brenda's ongoing restitution payments, which has already helped 3 teenagers attend technical college. The Camaro that started it all became a symbol of resistance, featured in magazines. Marcus began a relationship with Sarah and now consults with other communities pro bono, sharing the documentation strategies and coalition-building techniques that proved successful. The legal precedent set by their case led to the passage of the Willowbrook Act, requiring annual financial audits for all HOAs in the state with budgets over $50,000. The community, once plagued by fear, is now defined by block parties and genuine friendship, a powerful testament to ordinary people fighting back against injustice. The sound of neighbors helping each other replaced the tension that once hung over the neighborhood, a lasting legacy of their fight. This section explores how meticulous documentation was the key factor in Marcus's victory. From the very beginning, Marcus's habit of keeping records for his Camaro restoration proved to be his greatest asset. His 3-ring binder filled with photos, receipts, and the handwritten bill of sale from Eleanor Hutchinson provided undeniable proof of ownership against Brenda's fabricated claims. This established a foundation of credibility that allowed him to successfully counter every false accusation. When Brenda escalated her harassment, Marcus's proactive investment in 4 high-definition security cameras provided irrefutable video evidence of her illegal activities, including property surveillance, vandalism, and the final break-in at the HOA office. The coalition members, Tom, Sarah, Mike, and Linda, also contributed to this documentation fortress, creating a collective file that was so airtight it could be used for criminal prosecution. This section highlights how their shared documentation, from police reports to audit findings, not only protected them but also built a comprehensive case that ultimately destroyed Brenda's credibility and exposed her criminal enterprise. The story serves as a powerful testament to the idea that in a battle against a suburban dictator, documentation beats desperation every time. This section examines the transformation of a neighborhood from isolated victims to a unified force. Initially, Marcus stood alone against Brenda's harassment. However, the failed emergency board meeting and Brenda's public display of bigotry in the parking lot served as a critical turning point. Marcus's neighbor, Tom, recognized the need for coordinated resistance and initiated the formation of a small coffee shop coalition. This group quickly grew as neighbors, including Mike, a lawyer, Sarah, an accountant, Linda, a teacher, and Carlos, a contractor, realized they were not alone in their suffering. Each member brought a unique professional skill set to the fight, creating a powerful team. This coalition was able to move beyond individual complaints to a systematic, multi-pronged attack on Brenda's power. They developed standardized incident reports, launched a door-to-door information campaign, and planned to run for the open HOA board positions. This section demonstrates how the group's collective action turned the fight from a personal feud into a neighborhood-wide revolution, proving that individual complaints often go ignored, but group action gets results. This section traces the legal escalation of the case from a civil HOA dispute to a criminal matter. Initially, the conflict was confined to HOA bylaws and civil harassment. Brenda's first actions were property-related, such as fining Marcus for his van and garage. Marcus's initial responses were also civil in nature, relying on HOA covenants and municipal ordinances. However, Brenda's increasing desperation led her to cross a critical line into criminal activity. Her false 911 report, the placement of roofing nails, and the anonymous threatening letter were all criminal acts documented by Marcus. Her attempted bribery of Carlos and her fourth false police report within 2 weeks further built a case against her. The final decisive act was her break-in at the HOA management office to shred documents, which led to her arrest. This section shows how her unhinged behavior provided the prosecution with a felony buffet of evidence, including embezzlement, fraud, and stalking. The case moved from the jurisdiction of the HOA board to the district attorney and the state insurance commissioner, a shift that marked the end of her reign. This section details the complete collapse of Brenda's financial and professional life. The discovery of her $78,000 embezzlement scheme was the first step. Her financial ruin was further compounded by the revelation that her own home was in foreclosure due to $23,000 in unpaid HOA dues. The subsequent legal and media pressure led to a final audit that revealed a total theft of $112,000 over 3 years. As the criminal charges mounted, her real estate career disintegrated. Her brokerage suspended her license and past clients began filing complaints. The final nail in her professional coffin was the requirement for criminal background disclosure on her license renewal, which meant fraud convictions would lead to automatic and permanent revocation. Her house sold at a foreclosure auction for $280,000, $70,000 below market value, due to the negative publicity. This section concludes with a summary of her sentencing: 4 years in state prison, full restitution of $112,000, and 5 years of supervised probation, a punishment that was a direct result of her financial crimes and desperation. This final section reflects on the lasting impact of Marcus's case. In the 6 months following Brenda's sentencing, the community transformed. The new, transparent board implemented radical reforms, including online financial reports and open meetings, and property values increased by 15%. The restitution payments, averaging $2,800 per household, felt like economic justice in action. Marcus used the funds from his appearance fees to establish the Willowbrook Automotive Education Scholarship, funded by Brenda's ongoing restitution payments. The Camaro itself became a symbol of resistance, featured in magazines and car shows. The legal precedent set by the case was cited in HOA fraud prosecutions across 3 states, and the state legislature passed the Willowbrook Act, which requires annual financial audits for all HOAs with budgets over $50,000. The community, once plagued by fear, is now defined by block parties and genuine friendship. The story serves as an inspiring example of how a quiet mechanic, by using documentation, building a community, and holding a person in power accountable, could bring down a suburban tyrant and create a lasting legacy of justice and transparency for others.